Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to class this afternoon, and welcome to the very first live stream for Web 140 Web Development Tools. We'll talk in a little bit about kind of what we're going to be doing this semester, give you a little bit of a rundown. That's sort of the purpose of this week, because this week our focus is still on the Begin Here module. So as we are approaching the start of the class this semester, we just kind of want to know what our expectations are going to be, what, kind of the rules of the road are in terms of what you can expect from me for the rest of the semester and what I can expect from you, or what I will be expecting from you for the rest of the semester. But first, just a little bit about these live streams, right? So I choose to do a lot of my course live streaming on YouTube, and I do that for multiple reasons, right? One is that it kind of eases the burden on you all, I think. One of the things that has become like incredibly present over the past year and a half when we've all been in like Zoom and Teams meetings is this ever-present need to try to get people to mute their microphones, to try to get people to turn their cameras on or turn their cameras off. Whatever the situation may be. And so this really takes all of the guesswork out of that. You don't need, if you're watching this, you don't need to be muted, because really the vocal communication, the audio communication is only one way. And the same thing with video, right? Like, it's only one way. It's only me distributing it out to you, but you do have the opportunity to interact in the chat, ask questions in the chat. That's what it's there for. Yeah, a lot better audio than through the Teams, right? Like, Teams really compresses that stuff and it's bad. Yeah, that's also true, Jake. Yeah, thanks for that. So that's one of the big things, is that, it's you don't have to worry about it as much, right? And then there's the fact that people learn stuff from YouTube. That's kind of the modern way of doing things. So I like to kind of go to a platform where people are already accustomed to going. There was a recent study, and even though it was done by Google, like I think it's in the Better with Google sort of research and information that they put out, so it could be a little bit biased. But in their study, they reported that 81% of people surveyed said they go to YouTube first when they're trying to learn something new. And, when I think about what I try to do and when I'm trying to learn something new, that's one of the places where I go first as well, to see, what other people have done and what other people are producing about, videos about, if there are things that I want to learn about. So that's one of the places where I go. So why not meet you where you are, is essentially my feelings on that. So if a lot of people are going to YouTube anyway, let's move toward that YouTube platform. Meet you where you're at. Makes a whole lot of sense, right? So that's essentially why I do the live streams the way that I do them. And then the fact that I do them is just to give you an opportunity to interact, to, teach some material and let you be able to ask questions. Again, these aren't mandatory. That you're not required to be at these sessions. You very well can be at them if you'd like. In fact, I encourage it. But it's not mandatory, right? That's another great thing about YouTube, is that the recordings are basically available immediately after the class. So that's another thing we've got going for us by using YouTube over some other platforms and things of that nature. So that recording is there. It's going to be there for you to watch. And so as long as you watch the recording, they very much do, yeah. YouTube does have a plethora of college lectures. I mean, there are some universities and such that only use YouTube for their material, which makes sense since it's basically the best platform that's out there. They put the most effort into it. So 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. But that just gives you a little bit of the insight behind, kind of what we're doing, why we're doing this, and gives you the understanding of what this is all about. So this is... Yep. Exactly. Yeah. There's lots of NC State videos, lots of, Harvard and Yale and a lot of these places put out content directly to YouTube. Lots of great stuff that's available on YouTube. Yeah, thank you. So our goal for today, and it'll be a little shorter of a live stream today than it will be on usual circumstances, because our goal for today is to just kind of go through the Begin Here module again, just to kind of make sure we're all on the same page. And we'll talk about some expectations for things going forward, and we'll bring up the final exam, or rather the final project, as a thing, because we actually need to bring it up early, because there are different like milestones and check-ins and things of that nature that run kind of throughout the course in terms of the final project. So we want to be able to talk about that as early as possible, which today seems reasonable. So we're going to go through the Begin Here module. I'm just going to hit the high notes, right? Because a lot of the stuff that I could talk about in the Begin Here module, well, it's already in a video that's in the course already. So I'm just going to click into the Begin Here module. Here I'm in the student preview mode, so I'm seeing roughly the same thing that you would, just so we can kind of all see this integration together. There's a lot of the stuff that we would normally talk about is in this video here. So I go into some stuff in this video that's in this table of contents area here. We'll be hitting some of that same stuff today. Some of the things will just kind of be moving right over as we are going into other stuff. So there's plenty of information here about what we need to know and what we need to do. So we'll place our focus in appropriate areas. But one of the things to kind of point out right here up front is that basically every module is kind of organized the same way as this one is. Like if we pop into module 1 here, we can see that it's basically organized in the exact same way in a module format with our table of contents. We start off with another little table of contents thing, and you can just paginate through everything and get everything done. And we can go through and we see that same sort of structure in all of these modules. So when it comes to like how we browse the course and how we do things, we're just, we've got the table of contents here in case we want to jump to something directly. Or if you're working through a module, you can go paginate item by item. And I can full screen that just to make sure that we're all seeing that. These arrow keys here on the upper right side of the screen that will allow us to paginate through the different pages. Easy peasy. So one of the first things that we'll look at today is the EVA. I want to say everybody's already completed the EVA, if I remember correctly. But we want to make sure that if you haven't completed this yet, you get it done. This is what we use for enrollment verification, just to maintain your spot in this course. I need this completed by you. And the deadline for this is September the 3rd, which is tomorrow. So by midnight tomorrow, you want to make sure that you have this completed if you haven't done it yet. It's just a simple 1-question quiz. You go in there, you click yes, you click submit, you're good to go. You can stay in the course. If you don't click yes, if you don't complete the EVA or you click no, right, then I have to administratively withdraw you from the course. So if you want to keep going, you want to make sure that you get this done. That's the big thing right now. All the other graded things in the module are due by Sunday, the 5th at midnight. But this one is due a little bit earlier because it's based on a different standard than all of the other stuff. It's a state. We have this for a state required metric, so we want to make sure we get this completed. If you're new to using Blackboard or you're new to taking online courses here at CCC, this Getting Started section here might be something that you would be interested in reading through. I'm not going to read through it now, but it gives you information about like submitting assignments, using the discussion board, how to check your grades, how to get alternative file formats for different things within the Blackboard course, all this sort of stuff. So if this stuff is new to you, or if it's been a while and you need a little bit of a refresher on how all this works, I recommend, taking the time and reading through this. That's what it is there for. On to the next one. And that is the syllabus. So let's open up the syllabus and have a quick look at it here. So I won't read the whole syllabus, right? Because the syllabus in general is a lot of boilerplate, a lot of same information that you've seen in every single class that you're in. But I will kind of point out a couple things. There's also the fact that I take all the real important things out of here and put it in the Begin Here module. So there's that as well. But we'll start off by reading the course description here. And it says that this course provides an introduction to web development tools. Topics include creating websites using web development tools and web standards. Upon completion, students should be able to create small websites and upload files to a server. Now, what this meant 10, 15 years ago versus what this means today in 2021 are two entirely different things. And I think that's a key thing to kind of make note of as we're getting started here. That what a web development tool was in 2005, 2010 even, versus what a web development tool is in 2021, totally different. Back in the earlier days, we would be using something like Dreamweaver or Microsoft Expression Web in this class. Something that you could take a canvas and kind of drag and drop items onto it and draw out specific locations and do all this kind of stuff where it's all through a visual GUI interface. But in 2021, these types of softwares are obsolete. You won't find a company building with Dreamweaver anymore. You won't find a company building with Microsoft Expression Web. So taking the time and focusing on those tools would do you a disservice. Now, what that means as a result, however, is that this course is a lot tougher than it would have been at one time. Because we're talking about code, we're talking about programming, we're talking about different softwares that support web development. And these softwares include things like where we can host code, our version management tools, which are, Git and GitHub, libraries like jQuery, or frameworks like Bootstrap. These are all tools that support web development. And so when we get into this, one of the things that you'll find is that, this is a third semester course in our programming and web development degree, and it is that way for a reason. One of the things that we like for you all to have as you approach this course is already a solid foundation in our HTML, our CSS, and maybe just a little taste of JavaScript. Because you're going to need that HTML and CSS at the very least to be successful. And that's what we have CTI 110 for. That's what we have Web 115 for. And concurrently, you'd be taking Web 215 right now. which I believe the majority of you are, which is a good thing. I wouldn't say that you have to go deep into being able to know HTML and CSS, but it is beneficial to have that under your belt. And that's why we do the HTML CSS refresher bootcamp as the first module in this course and all of the other upper level web courses that we teach, just so you remember the stuff that you did back in Web 115, back in CTI 110, sparks that memory back up again, because it might have been a semester since you've done that, been a little while since you've done that. So it's good to have that, and just so you can kind of remember what's going on. We will be doing a lot of code in this class, not right away, because Git really doesn't require a lot of code, but we will have to have some sample files for that. So we might write a little something. Or maybe we'll take the websites that we built in, that we'll be building in our refresher bootcamp, and push those to Git and GitHub. That'll be some interesting things that we can do. But these are tools that you'll more than likely either need to know or that you might encounter in a real world in a web development type job. Right? So we want to make sure that you have these tools under your belt. Let's see here. The other big thing that you would want to know out of here is our evaluation and grading, what it takes to, or what your grades will be determined or based on. And you can see here that final project is heavily weighted. The final project is heavily weighted, because the final project is basically the culmination of all the big web development tools that we can fit into that project. And it is a group project. We'll talk about that a little more in just a bit. But you can see your attendance participation, which are discussion boards, essentially. That's 15% of your grade. Your individual labs, which this is a fairly lab-heavy course, that's going to be 35% of the grade. Your group labs, which are mostly going to be check-ins, but there'll be some other stuff here and there that you'll have to do for your group labs. That's 10% of your grade. And then, of course, your final project, as we've already said, there's 40% of your grade. So really project heavy, really goal oriented. We kind of want to make sure that everybody's able to use these tools. And so, like I say, everything else, pretty much everything else in here is boilerplate or is in the Begin Here module separately. So let's flip back over to our Begin Here module so we can look at that a little more. And you can see the full list of tools that we'll be using down our navigation bar there on the left-hand side. Git, jQuery, Bootstrap, our browser development tools. So we'll be diving deep into our developer tools in Chrome, that sort of thing. Things like Inspect Element and a whole lot more, right? And we'll be trying out Canva. That'll be something that I'm trying out for the first time this semester. We've never really looked at that before, and I've never really taught class that included any kind of graphic creation. But this is a tool that supports web development, again, because it is a tool that allows you to create graphics that you can put on your website, which is something that you would want on a website. So we do want to approach that and figure that out, especially since we don't have that really anywhere else in the program. CSS preprocessors. And one of the things about CSS preprocessors is they're actually they're getting kind of antiquated nowadays. But there's still a ton of CSS preprocessors in production. So if you graduate and you go into a development job within the next, year, 2 years, right? you may very well run into a CSS preprocessor. So we want to be able to familiarize you with those things just in case you do. Docker is another new thing that I'm approaching this semester to try to include here. Docker's a new tool for development that examines like environment virtualization. So for servers and things like that, we can virtualize a server and run code on it. And so that module is just primarily going to be familiarizing yourselves with Docker. We won't be doing a ton with Docker because it doesn't really mesh well with our final project. But I do want to make you familiar with it, and this is the best course for it to be in. And then we have that final project, which I'll go ahead and open up in a new tab. But we won't talk about it for another few minutes here. So let's just go through a lot of this other stuff pretty quickly. The next most important thing is going to be these due dates and pacing here. So you've got your begin here. That's the current module that we're in. It's going to be due on Sunday. Everything in this module due on Sunday with the exception of the EVA, which is due tomorrow. Then we'll be starting module 1. You can see the assignment due dates there. That's every assignment in that module will be due by that date. That keeps it neat. That keeps it clean. You have a one-stop shop right here for all of your due dates for all of the modules in the entire course. You can see right now that your final project date assigned was the first day of class. Right? And that's because there is like milestones and things like that that's going to happen along the way this semester. But it's not going to be due until noon on the last day of class. And so you can also see there's roughly 5 days there between Module 8's due date and the final project being due. And those 5 days are for you all to kind of be putting your finishing touches on things, making sure you have all your documentation in order, making sure everything that you have ready is up to your standards. So that's just something to kind of point out there. My information here, my email address, my office phone, my student hours. So these are the times when I'll be in my office and available to you. Just because of like the way things are, the best way to get in touch with me and my preferred method of contact is via email or via Microsoft Teams. I typically have, a device with my email on it close at hand basically all the time, right? And a similar thing with Teams. So there's that. I'm not always by my office phone. I'm not always around for that. So those are the best ways to get in touch with me. And if we need to have a voice call or we need to have, I need to be able to see your screen so I can help you out with something, there's that as well. We can do that through Teams. And if you are trying to figure out Teams, we got a little video here to show you how to access the Teams web application, just so you can know that. Let's see here. I think most of this other stuff, like live online class, that's this right now. Course features and important information. Online course procedures. Getting started. That's all boilerplate stuff. So let's just jump to this final project information here. And this in the begin here section, we have this link that goes to the final project. Let me pull the final project up. So the final project is a group project. And it typically has 4-person groups. So this class, I can't remember if it has 6 or 7 people in it. So we'll need to kind of decide what we want to do about groups here, whether we want to have a group of 4 and 3, or whether we want to try to put everybody in the same group. If we do try to put everybody in the same group, that means that at least some of these roles would be duplicated, and we wouldn't, we'd only allow 2 people to a role, basically. And you'd still have to, so if we say that you need 5 custom scripts and there were 2 people to that role, I would need to see 10 custom scripts, which it gets kind of hard to do there. It's a lot easier. It's actually a lot easier to do this in smaller groups, so we might break this up. I'll be assigning your groups with module 1. So that'll be the first time you get your group assignment. And along with your group assignment, you'll get your department. Because essentially what this project is, and it's, there's a lot of stuff here. But if we look at the website brief here, you've been asked to develop a website for a program of study at Cleveland Community College. So in the past, I've given people like the cosmetology department. I think they've done electronics engineering before, just random departments. So I'll give you a program of study, and I'll put together your team, and each of these websites should include the name of the program, a description of the program, a list of required courses, a list of jobs, relevant pictures, and a link back to the Cleveland Community College website, where they can apply, and it'll also need to include all of these things from these people who have these roles. And you might be thinking, well, how would you track that? And that's the great thing about Git and GitHub. We'll talk about that more with Module 2, but essentially, with Git and GitHub specifically being a collaboration tool, and everything's going to be hosted on GitHub, I can see who's made what contribution and how many times they've contributed and how much code they contributed when they contributed. So if you're worried about group projects in terms of, the usual group project worry of one person kind of doing most of the project and everybody else kind of going along for the ride, that's not this type of project, right? I can actually get really granular thanks to GitHub and see everybody's contributions, how many contributions they've made, how much code they've contributed, how much they've helped. That sort of stuff. It's really, really great for this kind of thing. Which is why this is a group project. So I can see that you are using the platform and know how to use the platform and are able to do everything properly. So even though this is a group project, you are assessed individually based on your contribution and the reflection that you have to write at the end as well. Because you see there's a brief summary, 300 to 500 words, about your contributions to the project and your reflections on working with the group. Right, so big project, right? But again, remember that it's going to be conducted throughout the entire semester. You'll have milestones throughout the entire semester to meet. And ideally, the people who have these different roles can start performing their tasks after the module where we've covered stuff. So that's good, right? And so we'll mention this final project, and we'll talk more about this final project after I assign the groups and all that kind of fun stuff. So along with next week's live stream, probably we'll talk a little bit more about that. That just leaves us with the last two things here. One is the introductory discussion board. You want to make sure that you get done with that by Sunday at midnight. Just because this is an online class, it doesn't mean that you get away from being able to introduce yourself. That's still there. I'd like to know a little bit about you, and we're all going to be friends this semester, so we may as well. And then we have this orientation quiz. That's the final thing. So your graded assignments for the Begin Here module are the EVA, the introductory discussion board, and the orientation quiz. And so normally these live streams will last about an hour, right? Give or take a little bit, depending on what we're talking about on that week. But since we've already covered a lot of the stuff that's in the Begin Here, and this is just kind of the Begin Here, and a lot of it's boilerplate and stuff that you've already heard like a million times, that's really all that I have for you for today. So what I'm going to do is the way I usually end these is I'll turn the music back on for a few minutes and just hang out in the chat with anybody who's here with me live, answer any questions that you might have about anything that we've discussed. But that's all that I have for you for today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Woo!